Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. We've come to the middle of the week, and now we're also starting the next book in our Bible reading plan. We finished up 1 Samuel. Today we begin 2 Samuel. We're in chapter 1. And the sentence I wrote at the top of my journal after reading this chapter is, just tell the truth. Just tell the truth. And in this chapter, a man comes to King David. Well, he's not really king yet, but he comes to David and tells him that Israel's army had been defeated by the Philistines, that King Saul and his sons, including Jonathan, had been killed in battle. And he has the appearance of a man in mourning. He follows their customs of ripping his clothing, putting dust on his head as a sign of mourning and heartbrokenness. And he brings to David Saul's crown that was up on his head and a bracelet that he wore either on his wrist or his arm somewhere. And he says to David that he came across Saul during battle and that Saul had been injured and was in severe pain and did not want to continue suffering. So he had asked this man to take his life, and the man did what Saul wanted him to do and killed Saul. And now in mourning, he's bringing Saul's crown and bracelet to David. And in chapter 1, after that, there's a few hours of mourning. David and his men mourn. The man who brought the news mourns with him. But then David orders his soldiers, if you will, to execute the man who brought the news, who brought the crown, who claimed to have actually killed Saul upon Saul's request. And so look with me at verses 6 through 10 for just a moment. The Bible says, the young man who told him said, by chance I happened to be on Mount Gilboa, and behold, Saul was leaning on his spear. And behold, the chariots and the horsemen pursued him closely. The Philistines were chasing after him. And when he looked behind him, he saw me, and he called to me. And I said, Here I am. And he said to me in verse 8, who are you? And I answered, I'm an Amalekite. So he wasn't even a Jewish person. And then he said to me, or King Saul said to this Amalekite man, please stand beside me and kill me. For agony has seized me because my life still lingers in me. In other words, I'm not dead. I'm going to be, but I'm hurting, and I don't want them to catch me like this. And so the young man says to David, I stood beside him and I killed him, because I knew that he could not live after he had fallen. And I took the crown which was on his head and the bracelet which was on his arm, and I have brought them here to my Lord. Now, only two things in that story the young man told David are true. That he found Saul on Mount Gilboa. That's where the battle took place. That's where Saul was actually injured and died, if you go back to chapter 31 of 1 Samuel. Okay, so that part's true. That Saul had been injured in battle was true. Pretty much everything else the young man said to David was a lie. He embellished the story. You remember from yesterday in chapter 31 of 1 Samuel, Saul had been injured in battle. He did not want the Philistines to take him alive while he was injured and torture him, so he asked his armor bearer to kill him. That armor bearer refused. So Saul took his own life. He committed suicide, if you will, and then his armor bearer committed suicide as well. So this Amalekite man saying Saul had asked him to kill him, well, that's a lie. He made that up. Apparently, this young man had come across Saul's dead body there on Mount Gilboa. You'll remember from chapter 31 that there was the day of the battle. Philistines win. Saul dies. Jonathan and his brothers die. And it's not until the following day that the Philistine army scours the deceased bodies of the Israeli army, taking whatever loot and so on, clothing, armor, and stumbled across Saul and Jonathan's bodies, and then beheaded Saul and nailed their bodies to the wall of that one city and so on. So apparently between the following day when the Philistines found Saul's body and the end of the battle when Saul died, apparently this Amalekite man, sometime in between, whether it was at late that evening, in the middle of the night, whatever it was, he stumbled across Saul's dead body on Mount Gilboa, took the crown and the bracelet, brings them to Jesus, and then makes up this whole conversation between him and Saul that Saul asked him to kill him. So he's embellishing the story. Now, why? Why did he do that? Why did he lie? Well, we don't know. I can imagine that he was hoping for reward. He was hoping to make himself look good in David's eyes. And he thought, well, the more kindness I showed to Saul, the better I'm going to look. If he had just told the truth, I came across his body, he was dead, and I knew God had chosen you to be the new king, and so I brought the crown to you so the Philistines would not get it. I think David would have respected that and rewarded him and honored him. But see what this young man thought when he told David, when he embellished the story that he had been the one who actually took Saul's life, thinking he was making himself look better because he had done Saul a kindness, he was actually, in David's eyes, making himself look worse. You'll remember from 1 Samuel, there were 2 occasions when David could have easily killed Saul and did not allow his men to do that either, because he said he was not going to touch God's anointed. Now here this man with his own words is making up a lie, but in doing so is saying, I actually touched the anointed one of God, King Saul. And that did not go over very well with David, and so he executed the man for touching God's anointed. I think there's a lesson in that for us. Embellishing a story, exaggerating a story, adding details to a story that did not happen is a lie. Okay? It's lying. When you embellish, you're lying. And we usually do that to make ourselves look better or whatever. And here's the thing. People who have a habit of embellishing the truth, of adding details, leaving out details to make themselves look better, in the long run, if they have a habit of that, and we've all done that in our life, but if you have a habit of it, people who have a habit of doing that, and they do it pretty consistently, in the long run, not only are they liars, they are not trustworthy. They are not trustworthy. And they hurt themselves. And if you trust them, they'll end up costing you as well. Just tell the truth and trust God. You don't have to embellish things. That's the word for today. I'll see you tomorrow as we look in 2 Samuel at chapter 2. Have a good evening, everybody.